So the big question, the main thing that I wanted to focus on in this review is, does Pennywise have genitalia? Is Pennywise a man? Is Pennywise a woman? Who knows? Oh, hello. How are you guys doing? Welcome to my It Chapter 1 Revisited special. Before we jump deep into this thing, there's going to be a giveaway. And I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to jump into the giveaway. You could have a chance to win the whole thing, I guess, the Stephen King book for It. And you could win Roller Skate Skinny, the new book by my wife, under the pen name J.L. Michaels. So, you get both books. All you have to do is A, be a Drumdums subscriber, and B, tell me your favorite scene in the movie It Chapter 1. Not Chapter 2, because at this point you haven't seen it yet. So, that's the two things you need to do down in the comments. Just let me know your favorite scene and why. And then you will be entered into the contest to win. Just to timestamp this, I'm hunkering down for Hurricane Dorian as we speak. I've been lifting plywood all day. Hopefully the Drumdums Evil Lair will still be standing after this weekend. We will see. Nothing can break down this fortress. So anyway, enjoy the Revisited special.
With It Chapter 2 coming out in early September, I felt the need to go ahead and go back and rewatch the first It movie. And after watching it, I really felt the need to discuss it again. So, we're going to do It Chapter 1 Revisited. What's up, guys? 2 years ago, It came out, and it swept the nation by storm. It was one of the highest grossing opening weekends for a horror movie, if not the highest grossing. I'm not sure. Didn't do my research on that one, but I know it was a massive, massive opening. And Chapter 2, I'm sure, is going to be just as big of an opening, if not bigger. And I decided to watch the movie again. I saw it in the theater when it came out. I watched the 4K when it came out. Got the Steelbook. And then, just recently I decided, you know what, Chapter 2 is coming out. And I wouldn't mind giving a refresher to the first It movie. Yes, I have seen the It miniseries that came out back in 1990. And it's interesting because Pennywise is really an interesting character. You all know Stephen King wrote the iconic book. He is one of those characters that people really gravitate towards. You constantly see people wearing his memorabilia, the t-shirts. The merchandise train for Pennywise is massive. Bill Skarsgård turned in a really interesting performance in the first movie. And he was an interesting casting choice. And it reminded me a bit of what they did with Heath Ledger in The Joker. Two completely different performances, but still, watching his performance in this movie, and it is a performance. Of course, there's some heavy use of CGI to play around with the character because this character is not human. This is a shape-shifting type of character. You are not going to see just Pennywise in this movie. It's about fear. It's about adolescence. It's about all these different themes. So I'm going to dig a little deeper into this movie and some of the themes and what they all mean. Now, I'm looking forward to digging deep into this. As you know, with my revisited reviews, I always go in chronological order. That opening scene in It might be one of the most iconic opening scenes in horror movie history. And I always say that. It's weird, but it really is. And it made me think of the opening of Jaws. The scenes are completely different. They play out differently, but they're both so iconic. They're usually the first scene that people think about when they think of those two movies. Jaws being the young girl goes out and she's swimming, and then all of a sudden Jaws comes up and nabs her. And it's kind of like a loss of innocence. This is youth. And then this evil comes from beneath and takes away her innocence. And you can kind of compare that scene to it. Because if you really think about it, it has this creature that comes from the sewers, from beneath, to take away innocence. And in this case, Georgie. So, right at the beginning of the movie, they're setting up this relationship between Bill and Georgie, letting you know that these are two brothers that are very close. They love each other. Bill is making Georgie this boat. Of course, Georgie takes the boat out, it's raining, and then he meets Pennywise for the first time.
Do you want a balloon too, Georgie?
I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers.
Oh, well, I'm Pennywise the dancing clown.
And I do think that is one of the best scenes with Pennywise in the movie. And there are a lot of great scenes, I mean, creepy ass scenes with Pennywise throughout this movie. But I love that first one so much because it shows Pennywise in a very innocent form. He seems like this completely non-threatening clown. I mean, yeah, he's in the sewers, but this is a kid. You know, kids believe in a lot of things that adults don't. And so he sees this non-threatening looking clown below, and he's talking about popcorn, and he's talking about the circus. And there's just this really playful moment to start out, you know, and it really plays with innocence. And then there's that pause.
I should get going now.
From that pause, you, the viewer, you know, and Georgie knows that this is not a safe zone. This is a danger, and the danger is right there in the sewer. He does that completely unexpected thing. He comes out and completely rips Georgie's arm off. And I hadn't read the books. And at the time I saw this movie, I hadn't seen the miniseries. And that shocked the hell out of me. And talk about an open scene that really just wallops you over the head, much like Jaws, and locks you into this movie. From that scene, you're curious. You want to know where the hell this movie's going to go. So after this scene, the movie picks up some months later, after Bill is picking up the pieces. And we're introduced to this group of friends. And it's just a very strong glue that holds all these friends together. It works so well. They're all very different from each other. You got Bill, who's kind of the leader there. Ben, who is the chubby, hopeless romantic. And then you got your comic relief of Richie, who is hilarious in this movie.
Derry started as a beaver trapping camp.
Still is, am I right, boys?
Eddie, who is your smartass of the group. And then you got these other two characters, Mike and Stan, who, if I have to jump into my cons a little bit, those are the two characters that they don't focus on as much as the other characters. And the reason that's a con for me is because Mike is a really interesting character, actually. You know, he saw his parents die in a fire. A lot of the scenes with him and Pennywise, they are the most captivating. But they don't really explore Mike nearly as much as they explore a lot of the other characters. But the interesting thing about these characters is that they're all afraid of different things. And that's what Pennywise does. You know, that's what this entity does, really. Because that's what Pennywise is. He's this alien entity. And so he can take the form of our biggest fears. And so, again, this movie is about adolescence. It's about innocence. Because that's when those fears are the biggest. Like, you can almost visualize them. And so he comes every 27 years and he preys upon these innocents and kills them for the most part.
Yo-flo too, yo-flo too, yo-flo too, yo-flo too,
Yo-flo too, yo-flo too, yo-flo too, yo-flo too, yo-flo too.
But Bill's biggest fear is Georgie. He always sees Georgie. He's haunted by the memory of Georgie. And he's searching for Georgie because he doesn't want to believe that Georgie is dead. He can't let him go. So that's his biggest fear. And then you got Richie, who is afraid of clowns. They don't really dig deep into Richie's fears. You know, you do have that one scene where there's just this clown room that's kind of creepy. Eddie keeps seeing these lepers. You know, you got all these great things to play with to scare the audience. One of the most interesting characters for me in this movie, actually, is Ben. They spend a lot of time on Ben, actually, and one of my favorite scenes in the movie is actually the library scene, where he's just sitting in the library, and you're getting all this great research, you know. Very well-directed scene, because this catches the audience up with who Pennywise was, where this entity came from, not really where it came from, but what it has done to this town of Derry, and how long it's been doing it. And that's where he discovers that it's every 27 years. You know, Ben is kind of our guide through the movie that lets all the other Losers Club members know this is what we're dealing with. And it's important to have a character like that in the movie. And so one thing I thought was worth exploring in this review is why the clown is the one constant image we see through this movie, even though all these children have different fears. And I think the clown is probably the most inviting form. You know, that's why he uses the clown to lure people in. You know, the clown usually starts off as kind of friendly, but it quickly can turn from friendly to oh shit in a heartbeat. And another interesting thing about clowns is if you do like a little bit of research from a psychological standpoint, the human brain, it registers things differently if it's not in human form. And a clown could fall into that category. It creates a sense of confusion that could cause fear. And that's another reason why I think Pennywise chooses the form of a clown. It creates confusion. It creates a lot of mixed emotions.
We'll float down here. Yes, we do.
And clowns do seem to be representative of youth. Like when we have a birthday party when we're a child, and a lot of times you will see a clown at a birthday party. And every time Pennywise comes on screen, it's captivating. You know, they don't overuse him, but when they do use him, they really make it count.
Tasty, tasty, beautiful fear.
I think one of my favorites is when Eddie is he's going to the house and he's standing in the field, and Pennywise is just standing there with this big like pyramid shaped formation of balloons, and you know they slowly come up and you see his face, and then he just stares at you. And behind the scenes, Bill Skarsgård actually does have that like eye affliction where one iris or eyeball is like going the opposite direction, and it just adds more creepiness to the character.
I had kind of a lazy eye and I can like make it go.
But it's also interesting in the movie that Pennywise, he lives beneath the surface. He lives in the sewers. Above ground is where the innocence is. And Pennywise, he represents the evil that wants to, you could look at the sewers as hell. And he wants to pull the innocence down from hell. That's why he constantly preys on children and not adults. And once he gets a hold of these children, if he doesn't kill them when they're children, he psychologically tortures them for the rest of their lives. You know, at the end of this movie, he lets them know that he will be back after they defeat him.
And you will all live to grow and thrive and lead happy lives until old age take you back to the weeds.
And of course, that's what we're going to be exploring in It Chapter 2. But also, like the red balloon. What does the red balloon signify? I mean, if you really kind of break it down, and this is just like my own theory, but the color red, I think that's purposeful because red can be good, it can be bad. It could be beautiful, or it could be, like blood. But even if you like dig a little deeper, what is inside the red balloon? It's air, and that could represent like the last breath. And so it kind of acts as this harbinger. This is your warning, the audience's warning, Derry's warning. Once you see the balloon, you know that evil is coming. Now, one character I have not mentioned purposefully is Beverly. Beverly is a pivotal character in this movie. She represents the transition from innocence to puberty or adulthood, whatever you want to call it. And there's so many scenes in this movie that signify that. The big one is when they're at the cliff and all the boys are in their underwear. And then Beverly comes and gets in her underwear. And before Beverly came, these boys being in their underwear was kind of an innocent thing. After she came, then their bodies started reacting to it. And it became almost like an embarrassing type of thing. And also I loved Beverly as a character because she was a character that had so many issues. She has this father it's implied that he molested her in the movie. I haven't read the book. I don't know if in the book it actually says that he molested her, but they pretty much give you enough information in the movie to make you think he molested her. And he's a real piece of shit. And there's this one scene in the bathroom when her hair comes out of the sink and then you see blood all over the place. It's interesting that the father comes in, he doesn't see the blood. And that's because he is evil. But when the other kids come in, they do see the blood, as does Beverly, because they are innocent. That is Pennywise preying on their fears. Also, there is this kid named Henry Bowers that looks spitting image of the bully and over the top.
This is gonna hurt, Wimp. What do you think of that?
I think your breath stinks.
It is uncanny how much these two characters look exactly like each other. And I mentioned that in my first review as well, but it really needs to go mentioned again because the character of Henry Bowers is highly interesting. You know, we've seen movies with bullying before, and from an entertainment standpoint, it's serviceable. This movie really goes farther. The scenes where Henry Bowers and his gang are torturing Ben, like the one scene with Ben, I mean, he literally cuts his stomach open. That's some crazy shit. But the difference between, you know, normal movies and this movie is it explores Henry Bowers and why he is the way he is. And he has his father that's a complete piece of shit. And so we understand where he comes from. It's like evil breeds evil. It's as if Henry Bowers never really had any innocence. You know, he was born into evil. And some people are born into evil and they're able to turn it around and go against the grain. But then you have the case of Henry where the evil just consumes him. Now, I haven't even really jumped into like the scares and the horror aspect of the movie because there are plenty. Especially the one scene when they're in the garage and they're looking through the reel, and then all of a sudden you see the image change slowly to Pennywise, you know, hiding behind the hair.
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
And then all of a sudden he just like comes out of the reel. That scene made me jump out of my seat. It was freaking crazy. And of course, another really great scene was in the last act when they're actually in the house. And this is where it's no holds barred. Pennywise is pretty much preying on each child one by one, on all their fears. And it is one of the best scenes in the movie from a horror standpoint. But I love that in this movie, they don't just focus on horror. They focus on all these themes and adolescence and childhood. And it's done so beautifully. And in the first review, I gave this movie a Trapper on an Island. I am sticking with that rating. This movie is phenomenal. Every time I watch it, I like it even more. I definitely prefer it over the miniseries. Tim Curry's great in the miniseries, but it's painfully dated. And I'm so glad that we're getting an updated version of the adult portion. Because I did like the child portion of the miniseries. But the adult portion was really bad. And rest in peace, John Ritter. Anyway, guys, that wraps up my It Revisited. We talked about so much in this review. It was really fun. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on It Chapter 1. Have you watched it more than once? I would highly recommend it because, like I said, there's a lot of themes that this movie explores. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.